Al Jazeera podcasts.
Today, more than 1 million Lebanese are asking, where can I go that's safe?
What we fear is further displacement. It's enough that they blew up our houses. Now we're all in the streets.
A new Israeli incursion will mean that number keeps rising, and many feel like there's nowhere left to run. I'm Malika Bilal, and this is The Take.
My name is Sally AlJoud. I'm a Beirut-based journalist. I work with a local media outlet called L'Orient Today.
So, Sally, we're hearing reports about a ballistic missile launch from Iran to Israel.
We've got breaking news upon breaking news upon breaking news this hour. This is the last one coming into us just now.
There are also reports of explosions in Tel Aviv.
Missiles have been launched from Iran into Israel. All of this is live.
The situation keeps changing and the news only gets more grim. What goes through your mind when you read these headlines?
Wider war, Lebanese people paying the price. This is immediately what we think here when we read such headlines, because even we saw after those reports, the Israeli military commenting on it, saying that if that happens, people will pay the price. And this is what we think here, where we get scared. We're just thinking of a wider war, and no one wants that. People here in Lebanon do not want war. They want this to end. But it's very scary for them right now that this is not where this is going.
Yeah, because there still is nowhere to go. So, Sally, I know that you are following developments out of Lebanon as we are. So early on Tuesday morning, Israel said its ground troops had entered Lebanon in the south. Israeli airstrikes have continued to target southern Lebanon, though, with really intense bombings. And there were more attacks on the southern suburbs of Beirut. What are people telling you about how they're trying to stay safe?
People, they're very confused. They don't know what's happening. They're, like me, taking everything that's happening hour by hour. Some people think they are in safe places, like myself, out of Beirut's southern suburbs. But as the days go by, we see some Israeli airstrikes happening. In the capital, we saw one intersection called Kola.
For the first time, airstrikes have hit an area of Beirut outside the armed group's stronghold. Israel says it's targeting Hezbollah sites. It bombed an apartment block near the city center, killing 3 people. There's significant damage to the building in the Kola area.
There was no prior warning for that strike. People also, again, after it happened, picked up their stuff and fled. Just before this interview, we had an airstrike on the outskirts of Beirut's southern suburbs. This is a very densely neighborhood as well, and this is very close to a key hospital that's probably still hosting some of the injured coming in from Beirut's southern suburbs. And this is also close to where my mom goes to work. And this also, again, happened without a prior warning. So there's a sense of this, urgency, confusion. People are scared, especially in the areas where they thought they were safe for the time being.
With more than 1 million people displaced in Lebanon, there are people who are unhoused across the country, while others have managed to leave. What does Lebanon look like these days? Can you tell that 1 million people have been displaced?
Yeah, like you said, I'm also packing. I have a go bag ready in case anything happens and I need to, flee where I am. Although, as far as I know, where I am right now should be safe. But as we see the airstrikes hit deeper into Lebanon and into Beirut, the capital, everyone is concerned. Everyone is lost. They don't really know if where they are anymore is safe. And absolutely, you can tell that so many people have fled their homes and their villages. This started around a week ago, and the people are still on the streets. Today, the weather is a bit colder. We had some rain. And as I drove by in the city, I was still able to see many, many families on the streets, sometimes makeshift mattresses and pillows, children. You know, we're talking about families. They still don't have a place can go to. There are several options right now for people wanting to be in a safer area, but that includes, renting an apartment that's expensive, going on a boat to Cyprus that's also expensive. We're talking about like $1,500 per person. So if you're a family of 5 members, if you don't have that kind of money, you can't go somewhere safer. All the airlines almost have canceled the flights. There's only the national carrier, the Middle East airline, functioning right now, and almost all of their flights are fully booked.
So for those who have the means to try to leave Lebanon, they're then running into the problems of very expensive flights or no flights at all. For those who don't have the means, practically speaking, what are people doing? You mentioned mattresses on the street. So people are just taking their belongings from the south and from the southern suburbs of Beirut and walking?
Yeah, a lot of them actually had to walk. After the massive airstrike that we saw on Friday that took out Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah, and then there was several ones after, people did not expect that this would happen. So people just fled in the middle of the night. I looked out of my balcony and I saw the families arriving on the streets, out of nowhere, had to leave. The next morning when I was walking my dog, I saw a man that also was camped out on the sidewalk of my building. And I had a chat with him about what happened. And he told me he had to walk 10 kilometers from Beirut's southern suburbs. And when he arrived to a safer place, he did not have anywhere to go. So he had to spend the night on the street. I also walked further. I saw a family. They had a van, a child inside that family sleeping on a makeshift pillow. And the parents in the front seat, one was on the phone scrolling. I from what seems, checking if there's any options to go to, and the father on the phone calling people. Until today, this was, on Saturday, until today, I see some of these cars still parked on that sidewalk with no, they obviously seem not to have many options where they can go.
After the break, fears of a wider war. Talk to me about this potential or fact of an Israeli invasion in which Israel says it is already on the ground. How is that making you feel? How is that making other people feel?
The news of that is making everyone really, really terrified. It's very terrifying to, on top of airstrikes, to have an invasion. We know that the last time Israel did that, it also claimed that it would be limited, and then they got to Beirut. And whenever you're discussing this with people, this is the thing that they mention. So it seems like everyone is scared of that. And even when we personally reported on that, quoting the military, the Israeli military, saying that it would be limited and targeted, I got responses from everyone just mocking that, because no one is believing it would be that. And that's scary in itself, to think that Israel is not just targeting you from the air anymore, it's also invading.
Sally, what strikes me in this is that there's not a lot of time to get angry when you are fearing for your life and your loved ones. But I wonder what you make of the fact that you're in this realm of uncertainty, and the idea that another nation is sending text messages to residents of a sovereign nation that they need to flee, and you don't really have any recourse. How are you feeling in the midst of all of this?
There's a lot of feelings right now that we're feeling. Anger is also included. This is a nation that keeps lurching from one crisis to another. So we have a nation that was, before this escalation, was trying to stand on their feet again and try to recover. There were many restaurants that were opening up, new ones. people even in the diaspora that left during the economic crisis or following the port explosion in 2020, some of them were even trying to get back here. And now an escalation in the conflict with Israel, and everyone is just really upset. They've had it. They see it as the cherry on top. But also they're very scared as well. So this is definitely the leading feeling here, because this is life or death. So people are trying to see about their safety, where they can go to flee areas that are being targeted.
You are Lebanese. You report on Lebanon. You also worked once as a paramedic in Lebanon. So you know this country better than most. You've got to talk to its people. You also know that it's a country with a reputation for weathering almost anything thrown its way. You just listed several of those things. It's also a diverse country with many different populations. People are now forced to rely on one another for shelter, for safety, for food, because the economy is in disarray, as you said. There hasn't been a president in nearly 2 years. How are you seeing that play out amongst people?
We're seeing a lot of, the sense of national unity following what happened, since this whole thing started 2 weeks ago with the explosions and the devices that Hezbollah members used. Ever since then, opposers and supporters of the party kind of, lined up together to support each other, to stand against what's happening. There's a lot of people opening up their homes. There's a town called Wadi Zaine that's south of the capital, Beirut. This town hosts a majority of Palestinian refugees, and they themselves right now opened up their homes. In one case, their wedding venue, and in another case, a mosque, to host the displaced coming, the Lebanese displaced coming from southern villages.
Wow, that's beautiful. How are you going to make the determination on whether or not you have to use those go bags that you packed?
So, as a journalist, I'm following the news. I'm doing that for work, but I'm also doing that for my own safety. Sometimes I finish my shift at a certain hour, but I'm still on my phone. I'm still on my laptop following what's happening, because this is for my safety, for my family's safety as well, as my family members live in different areas than me, to keep an eye out and see if their areas are close to anywhere where, the Israeli military is threatening to strike, where it might be unsafe. Also to check on how other people are doing also.
Finally, Sally, I wonder what you make of the fact that the rest of the world is watching these events unfold on screens in the palm of our hands in real time. Do you think that intervention is coming from the international community? And if not, why not?
Scrolling on the phone and following what's happening in a conflict area, we as Lebanese, we're very used to it since October. We were doing that same thing with Gaza. Also on our phones, glued to our phones, watching what's unfolding in Gaza. There's sirens behind me, and this is the kind of noise we hear all day. Incessant siren noise, incessant drone noise, flying really low. And then if you're close to it, also once in a while, airstrikes. And then immediately we're always on our phone saying, okay, 1, and then 2, 3 airstrikes. People are sleep deprived, whether you're working in journalism or not. People are staying up till 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. Watching what's unfolding and making sure it's not getting close to them, because Israel is also striking areas after midnight. But I think there's a sense of disappointment amongst the Lebanese. They never really expected that it would escalate to this point where there wouldn't be an action from the international community, from, let's say the US and France, and, where there would be pressure on Israel not to escalate to this point. And Israel is, as they say, they get to do whatever they want. No one is stopping them.
And that's The Take. At Al Jazeera Podcasts, it's crucial we hear from viewers and listeners like you. So if you have a few minutes, go to aljazeera.com/survey and tell us about yourself, how you listen to us, what kind of shows you want to listen to, or what topics you'd like us to cover. Again, that's aljazeera.com/survey.